So now you're here in the Kurdistan region to give your knowledge, your expertise on Black History Month. So let's touch base a little bit on that.
Yeah.
Most people listening right now, they don't understand what does that mean, what is that about, why is there even a month for it? So explain to us what is this from America, Black History Month?
So the month of February every year is Black History Month. Everyone, I think, has a sense of what the history of African Americans is in the United States. Started with slavery, which lasted for 300 or so years, ended in 1864. But even after slavery ended, it was tough to be a black person in the United States.
Couldn't vote for 100 more years.
Couldn't vote for a long time. Had to sit at the back of buses, had separate water fountains, had separate schools. They called it separate but equal, but the white schools were always so much better than the black schools. And so Black History Month was about celebrating the contributions of African Americans. I think African Americans are probably the most dynamic part of American society. When you think about rock and roll, I know a lot of your listeners like rock and roll and like rap.
They like rap,
right?
Not rock and roll.
I mean, so
into hip hop, yeah.
But all of that stuff sort of comes from an African American tradition, right? It comes from jazz. Some of the first rock and roll records that became popular by white artists had already been recorded by black artists. And so Black History Month identifies folks like Shirley Chisholm, who was the first person of African descent to run for president in the United States. And
really?
Yeah. And
when was this?
It was in the 60s. And and then 50 years later, you get Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And folks like George Washington Carver, who was born a slave, but became the preeminent expert on agriculture. And it's just over and over and over again. And the only really true American music, jazz, blues, rock and roll, rap, all comes from African Americans and an African American start.
So the month is used to spread knowledge, information about those original, let's call them pioneers.
That's right.
Of the ones that try to make a change for the African Americans.
I think that's absolutely right. As I talk to students over the course of the last few days here, the individual achievement of African Americans amounts to this groundswell of progress and success. My own story, my parents started off, their families worked on farms that were owned by other people. They picked cotton, and they missed school in the fall because they were harvesting cotton for their family, and they never had any money. When I was working at the White House, I had an opportunity to meet the president, spend time with the president, President Obama at the time. And I have this great picture of myself in the Oval Office. I took it home to my dad in New Orleans and gave it to him, and he looked at it, and he just sort of sat there for a second, and he said, I can't believe that I was picking cotton, and now my son's in the Oval Office.
Where does he live now?
New Orleans.
Wow.
And so, that's the story of African Americans in the United States.
He didn't cry. Did he cry? I would cry if I was
cry.
Well,
Everyone knows I would cry.
He's a Marine, so...
Oh, he's not going to cry.
Not in front of me.
Okay. Of course, this is a great idea, and that's cool because there's lots of misinformation. Most people in the Middle East don't even understand the history of America as the way you explained it. They don't understand. They don't even know about the dark history, the black suppression, and all these kind of things. So that's kind of important. Maybe it's even more important here than in America because people around the world should know about it so that we can learn from these lessons. But let's talk about America a little bit now in general. America, like right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, you see things are still not that great. Every single week or two, we're getting news here about these kind of problems. Like, you heard about the whole Gucci problem now.
Yes.
Did you hear about this?
Yes, I saw it.
What's your opinion about this? Why do we continue to see these kind of weird situations still happening in America?
I think because people don't think about it. There's a moment in the United States where people think we're making great progress, and then individual things happen, like the Gucci thing, or with the governor of Virginia, the picture in his yearbook.
Yeah, I don't understand how.
But here's the thing. Let me say this. That thing happened for the governor in the 70s, and now he is governor of Virginia. and he ran on a platform of inclusion and diversity. And so while these things are hurtful, and I know as an African American they're hurtful to me, I do think that, we're in the age of the internet. You're giving away free internet. I'm going to try to figure out how to get some. But in the age of internet, you see all of these things. It doesn't mean we're not making great progress.
Okay, but what about the things that are happening now? Like these brand clothes that don't understand these kind of things are offensive, and it's making a lot of people angry.
And so this is a great question, and I think a good thing to talk about for this region in this moment. The problem is that they have boards of directors that don't have any African Americans. They don't have representation. It's like if you were putting out a line of women's wear and had no women in the design group.
So that's the problem.
They don't have someone sitting in the room going, you know what,
that's not a good idea.
This is a terrible idea. And so the more you can include people and be diverse, the less this will happen.
But how can like a big, powerful, strong company like Gucci, like all these brand names, they don't have the money to hire smart people of different backgrounds.
And so they do, right? But it has to start early on, right? You have to make African American kids feel like they can grow up to be designers and be executives, so that they can find their way into these boardrooms. And so, my hope is, and this is, folks here are so young. That if you start talking to them now about diversity and inclusion and get them the education they need, then you will find 20 years from now that they are part of it and they're part of the boardroom. But you can't just focus on the folks that are getting it wrong now. You got to focus on the people who have an opportunity to get it right later.
If you guys are just listening to us, this is the Basra Consul General, the U.S. Basra Consul General, Timmy Davis, and I wish we could talk more. We're close. We're getting really close to run out of time. She said 9:15, so we got a little bit more time here. By
the way, I thought you were going to call me Tyree.
Tyree checking in. All right, so Tyree is checking in, the Consul General, and we're talking about different things. So what about Basra? When they first saw you, obviously, in Basra it's a little different because they also have a small African or black community.
Afro-Basravis,
Not a big community, but a small one. So they are familiar with, let's say, African people, but not as much as they should. How was that experience like when you first met all these people from Basra? Like, hey, I'm an American, and like, did they ask you? How was that experience? Did they ask you any weird questions?
So it's interesting. I find most of the places that I've served around the world, I've served in Australia and Colombia and Guatemala, they only think of me as an American. It rarely comes up that I'm African American. Here it rarely comes up. It's the position. I'm the U.S. Consul General. I'm trying to do my best to be as helpful as possible to Basrawis. And so that's what's important to them. I think at the root of it, they're less concerned about my race than they are about the fact that I'm here to be helpful. The Afro-Basrawi community is very dynamic and thriving in the South. They have a long way to go.
Yeah, you got a chance to get to know them. You met them.
I did. They have a long way to go
because they also have a dark history here.
Yes, I know, but they're as Iraqi as anyone else, and that's the important.
We know that.
That's the important message, right? Is that civilization started in this country, right? And it started with people of different religions, people of different races, and sometimes we forget that history. And as long as we can remember that history and that this place was built, that Iraq was built, that IKR was built by people who agreed on where they wanted to go, though they might have come from different places.
All right, I'm going to ask you a very last, I promise it's the last serious question, but it's something really important.
Sure.
When I first came in here, and because we have a lot of young people listening, and until now, surprisingly so, they don't understand the impact of what they're doing or saying. So when I came here, I was completely shocked by the way of how young people, because they would listen to rap songs and movies, they were using the N-word. Like as if it's nothing, like it's not offensive. And it's like jokingly, like literally they're not embarrassed to even say that to a black person.
Yeah, we have the same problem in the United States.
Well, not as here. It's just really like, oh my God. I mean, of course, in the U.S. we have a problem, yes, for sure. But people in the U.S. know, like, okay, you're not supposed to say that to a person.
Right.
It's not right.
Right.
Here, they don't understand that you're not supposed to say that. Can you please explain to them why it's not okay to say the N-word?
Listen, the history of that word is so tragic and so dark. It comes from the word Negro, but slave owners used to use the word to oppress their slaves. And once slavery ended, it was one of the easiest ways to oppress a black person.
To talk down.
Listen, I'm the U.S. Consul General in southern Iraq. And if someone calls me that word, it destroys me. Emotionally destroys me, right? It makes me less than a person. And so I know they hear it in rap music. And part of that is African Americans trying to take ownership of the word. And so it's not my place to tell black people not to say the N-word. But I'm telling you that it's devastating. And if you are humane and care about humanity and your fellow man and woman, you will not say that word to another person because it takes away everything that they are and everything that they've built.
There you go. So please, everyone just listening out there, understand that. And it's hard to explain that to a different culture where they haven't been educated about that. It is not okay to say the N-word. And I want to say we're proud to be, I'm pretty sure we're, if not the only one, the only radio station in the entire country where we censor languages.
It makes a huge difference.
We censor swear words, of course, including the N-word.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. I appreciate that.
And I hope other stations do follow suit. Well, this has been really great. We're getting a little close. Yes, Sansoon.
Yes, I always
Miss
have like
Kurdistan
one last question.
has a question.
What do you think about the food?
The food here or just the food everywhere?
No, here.
Food in here, Iraq food.
I am upset that you mocked the Mosgoof truck. I need to pull up to the Mosgoof truck.
It's just gonna smell bad.
I listen. If some, I will buy internet for the Mosgoof truck idea. The food is
Who was that checking in? Yeah, who was that?
The food is fantastic. I absolutely love it. It is all of, listen, as an African American from the South, we have soul food.
Yeah.
All of the food in Iraq is soul food, right? It's not, I mean, you have a couple of U.S. places like KFC and Hardee's. That's not soul food. That stuff's delicious.
Yeah.
But everything you cook at home, everything you have in your local restaurants, just makes me feel good about being alive. And I've probably gained 20 pounds since I got to this country, and I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad at all.
So would you say one of the reasons why you're in love with Iraq over these 15 years is because of the food?
Listen, I would say that as long as y'all keep cooking that food, I'll keep coming back. All right.
That is amazing.
Do you have like a favorite food, like favorite meal?
So I do like Mosgoof. I like biryani. Let me say this: I had never had sour milk before. I was at a restaurant the other.
Oh, Mastau.
Yeah. I was not prepared for it.
Oh, be careful.
I was not. No one warned me.
Wait, there's no Mastau in the South?
Well, no one's presented it to me. Maybe there is, but I've had
myself.
hundreds of meals in the South and no one's ever put it out.
No Mastau.
I went to a Kurdish restaurant the other night. I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
And they brought it out in these tin bowls. And no one warned me, and I drank some, and I think my entire face puckered.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Like my face almost caved in.
You didn't feel bad in your stomach, though, did you?
No. Felt okay. And
It's a stomach cleaner, bro.
I'm sure I'll get.
It is.
Yeah.
I will remember that.
Did you think it was like milk or something?
It just looks like milk.
Yeah.
But it absolutely
not.
caved in my brain.
What a lot of people use it for, it's really, it helps you sleep. So if you want to sleep,
Really? Okay.
it makes you sleepy. It's known for making you sleepy.
All right, I will bear that in mind. If I get brave enough to try it again, I'll bear that in mind.
Like maybe one sip, not a whole glass.
It's a lot.
Because I remember I drank it on the plane. So the guy next to me like ordered it, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll have the same," because I thought it was milk. It was not.
It's not a great surprise. I think if you know what you're drinking, it's better. But if you don't know, it's not fantastic.
U.S. Basra Consul General Timmy Davis is here. Before we let you go, was there anything else that I forgot to ask you about that you wanted to talk about?
No, I mean this has been wonderful. I'm really enjoying my time here. I have a few more days left. Your radio show is fantastic. I don't know if you're on the internet. If so, I'll start listening so I can get that free internet at some. If Tyree comes up with an idea, you'll know it's me to get that free internet. I appreciate it.
Well, Tyrell, I've offered this before to many people that have come here that are part of the U.S. Consulate. If you do take the position of the U.S. Consulate in Erbil in the future, you're more than welcome to have a show here, okay?
Outstanding.
Tyree at night or something like that. Tyree at 5.
Tyree all day.
Tyree all day.
I appreciate it.
All day.
Okay, you can come. It's like a little hobby. Do an hour, 2 hour show.
It feels like a good idea.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good luck with everything.
Thanks.